Hello, Gary, all the way from England, jolly old England. How you doing today?
I'm very well. How are you two doing?
Doing. I think we were about to both say pretty good.
Yeah, I'm a Quaker from the UK, which is a denomination of Christianity. What I want to talk about is things that atheists and Christians could maybe collaborate on in society. Like, for example, when the whole George Floyd thing happened last year, I went to a Black Lives Matter march in here and even in UK, which I'm sure it has its differences from the US. There are still people of Afro-Caribbean descent who were being stopped at a disproportionate rate to the white people in this country because they even asked that. They asked, have you been stopped with the police? And I can tell you from actually being there, no one was actually taking it. So I think that this is the sort of thing that we together, because I'm sure you care about this thing as much as I do, that needs reforming. And there's also the social housing, the amount of food bank stuff like that. And I think that those are things that we, atheists and Christians, could come together to, even though we have differences, to combat. Because I think those are things that I think we both would agree are horrible things that shouldn't be happening in society.
Yeah, I'm willing to work with anybody on anything to make the world a better place. I don't care if there is a church group out, doing a protest for something that I care about. Heck, I'd join them if they'd let me. I don't care what the background is. If we're trying to fight for something good, I don't care who's standing next to me, as long as they're trying to fight for something good too,
Yeah, it's just that I just think that we let our differences get in the way sometimes of us collaborating with those issues. Because again, we'd be like, as somebody who's LGBT friendly, I'm more than willing to say to my fellow Christian brothers and sisters, you're wrong about that issue, especially with trans issues and stuff like that. Because I do think that it's an important issue as well. Because there are trans people even today who are facing, death or facing, assaults or facing some sort of family ties cutting. And I think that those are things that we could also work together with, try and change people's minds on that. Because I think that they're taking the Bible out of context to try and prove their point. Because I think that me personally, this is just my own personal point of view, that gay gives them this squeaky feeling, and they want, instead of just saying that, they'd rather put the shield of faith in front of it rather than confront the fact that the squeaky feeling the feeling, which is usually baseless.
I've heard different views and interpretations on that. I've heard people say it's out of context. I've heard people sort of go back with different interpretations of the original text and say, actually, it could have meant this or that. And I've heard people say, yeah, that's what the Bible says, and I don't care. I don't have to take the whole thing whole cloth. It was written by men. Whatever your approach is, like if you're a Christian who is a LGBTQI plus ally, then great. That's awesome. And I think that you're right that in some ways, the labels of theist, atheist, Christian can sometimes get in the way of people working together. But that's something that people need to figure out for themselves. Is it so important that I make a stand as a person who does not believe in a God, and not work towards an actual real world ideal that I care about, just because I don't want to work with people who don't hold that same label? Put some things in perspective,
Yeah. And too, I think in the States, we actually have more Christians who aren't willing to work with atheists than we have atheists unwilling to work with Christians. And I'm sure there are some atheists who are, for some of them may very well be for good reason, given experiences they've had in the past, are just not able to. But we had it wasn't Seth Andrews, it was another atheist who tried to make a very large donation to a theist cause, and they refused the donation. They gave it back because it was from an atheist, not for any other reason. So yeah, I would agree that we do, that there are things that we could be allies on, and we can jump in the harness and start pulling at it, and start working at it. But some of the theists have to get over their prejudices too, at least in this country. I can't speak for England, but we do have people who will refuse to work with atheists.
I absolutely agree, because again, there are people out there who are very bigoted towards people like yourselves, and I think that's wrong. Because again, even though we may disagree on some of the issues, again, like with your last caller, you would disagree with him on some of the issues. We can disagree civilly on those issues, and we can try and come to maybe a reasoned understanding of each other without name calling or whatever. But the thing is that I do agree with you that there are some Christians out there who are downright bigoted, and I think that's wrong. Like there are some Christians out there who disown their children for being non-believers, and I think that's wrong. You should love your children no matter what. And if you're more likely to love them, they're more likely to come back. Well, that's my personal point of view, because the more loving you are, the more loving that you can show Christ is, in my opinion. And I'm sure
that's something I've actually said to some Christians that I know in real life is like, I get that you think that I'm wrong and that I need saving, but do you think like bullying me is gonna make me want to join you? Like understand that approach actually doesn't make sense, even if your goal is to convert me, if your goal is to save me. Bullying me, discriminating against me, that's not going to help your cause at all.
Oh.
So.
And also, I don't know if you watch our show Truth Wanted on Fridays,
but
we just Dan did an entire month of theist co-hosts talking, and Truth Wanted does not deal with the atheism question. It deals with all the other lack of science ideas, cryptids, and flying saucers, and all the rest of that stuff as well. So, I mean, we do try that. I know Atheists Helping the Homeless works with theists and theist organizations as well. And there are a number of atheists helping out with theist-run callers here. So we do try it. And you're right. It is something that I don't think that the crowd that thinks that ostracizing somebody and throwing them out of your community is a good way to make them come back around. Not in today's society. Maybe at one time, I think as recent as the 1700s and the 1800s, that getting thrown out of your community was a huge deal. And that's why many of our founding fathers probably, or not many, but some at least, did in fact go to church, because not being a part of society was not good for them. And so, yeah, you're right. Bullying people is not going to work. I could make some comments about how God is the ultimate bully, but we'll leave those conversations aside for now. But yeah, I think that you're right. We do need to focus on the things that move society forward, whether we're atheists or theists or somewhere in between.
Yeah. Thanks again for bringing that up, Gary. And it was a good call, but we have a couple more callers on the line and not enough time to talk to them. So we're going to move on. But thank you for calling.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. I'll speak to you again. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.